Alright everybody, I want to teach you how to effectively rat in a Vexor Navy Issue, or commonly referred to as a VNI. Now this is a little more advanced than the traditional Vexor, as it has a few more slots and a little more versatility, but yeah, I want to start with this, and if you guys have questions I can answer them. So to start, I'm going to show you my fit that I'm currently running right now. And in my rig slots I have an anti-thermal screen reinforcer and then two anti-EM screen reinforcers. Basically what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to take less damage depending on the type of ammo that the rats shoot at you. Now the drone link augmenter is going to allow me to increase the control range of my drones. Afterburner is obviously going to increase my speed because I will be speed tanking, and I will get into that as I go into the anomaly. I have a large shield extender to increase my shields, obviously, and then I have an omnidirectional tracking link and a navigation computer. Some people like to drop the nav computer for an extra shield. It's really up to you. For me, I find it better to have the omnidirectional and the nav because my drones can track faster and my drones will go faster. To make it cap stable, I have a capacitor power relay 2 in my bottom, or my low slots. Damage control 2, obviously to control damage, and then 4 drone damage amplifier 2s. That'll make my damage a lot higher. Now, for particular drones, I will provide a little chart that you can use depending on the space that you're in, and that'll be at the end of this video. That way you can see what you need, because sometimes it's a little difficult to tell. But because I'm in Serpentis space, basically what I'm going to be doing is using drones that either do thermal or kinetic damage, as they are weaker to as Serpentis NPCs are weaker to thermal and kinetic damage, mainly being kinetic. That being said, if you do not have heavy drones, you need to get heavy drones to 5, because that'll be your best bet 9 times out of 10. Because I don't have heavy drones to 5, an opportunity or an alternate option that you have is the Caldari Navy Wasp. They're a little more expensive, but they definitely get the job done. You'll make your money back within one sight. As you can see as I scroll down here, it does 64 kinetic damage, which is good for Serpentis. And I'm always going to be checking local, making sure there's nothing out here, no newts or reds. But this is a pretty friendly system, so we shouldn't run into any problems. Now, one of the main things that you definitely want to make sure you have with you is a mobile tractor unit. And basically, you're going to drop it as soon as you hit the site. That way, when you get to the site, it'll start pulling loots to it as soon as you start. Alright, so basically what's going to happen as I undock is I'm going to look for havens. Because in a VNI, havens are really easy, sanctums are pretty doable, but the one right below that is a hub, I believe. Yeah, you want to go forlorn hubs if you can't find any havens, and just work your way down. Now, I already have one bookmarked, so I'm going to warp to that. Generally, you want to be a little better at naming these, because I just named them real quick and you don't know which one's which. But when you warp into an anomaly, right, you want to have your inventory open, ready to drop your MTU, and then as soon as you drop it, just for your corporation's sake, change the name, set your name to it. That way they know whose anomaly this is, so nobody comes in and takes it. At least that's how it works in our systems. So there's nothing here, so that was obviously the wrong warp in. Let's try this again. Now when you jump in and you drop your MTU, always make sure you bookmark. That way, because the VNI doesn't have that great of a cargo hold, so you want to come back with an industrial and pick everything up. Now as soon as you get here, I'm going to click on this chemical plant, orbit at 30 kilometers. Now this is only because I dropped my MTU first. Always drop your MTU, so show it on my overview here, it's right there. So always drop your MTU first, orbit at 30 kilometers, find something stationary to orbit at 30 kilometers, generally in the center, and target in a gas haven. Target the drones or target the factory sentries first. Deploy your drones and get them going after those factory defense turrets ASAP. And the idea of speed tanking is essentially you'll be going so fast that nothing's really going to be able to hit you. Now, the smaller the target, I'm going to activate my omnidirectional. That way they hit more often, hit the smaller targets more often and harder. But the smaller the target, the more likely they are to hit you just because they have better tracking speed. And that's why in a VNI, you always, always, always take out the small targets first. And again, if a dread were to spawn in this next wave or whatever, don't even worry about these drones. Get out, because your ship and your pod is more expensive than these drones will ever be, unless you're flying geckos. But then you're just space tourists, so you probably don't need to be doing this. So basically what I'm going to be doing is taking out all of these small frigates and cruisers, or frigates and destroyers first, and then I'm going to work my way up to these admirals and just take those guys out. Just make sure you keep an eye on D-scan at all times, especially if you're a nullsec. As you can see, there's nothing on D-scan, so I'm pretty safe, relatively, as safe as you can get in EVE. And while the VNI does cost quite a bit, it's pretty easy to skill into. You know, as 120 mil, give or take, for the fit, depending on where you're at and all that kind of fun jazz. It can get kind of expensive, especially for a new guy, but within about 40 minutes you finish it, depending on your skills, obviously, but within about 40 minutes you finish the Haven, and that's 30 mil right there, give or take, plus between 8 and 15 mil in loot. So within a couple Havens, you already got another ship, so it's pretty quick. And as you can see, I'm being told to dock up because there's a sword fleet inbound, so I'm going to dock up. Always keep an eye on local and fleet chats, and keep an eye on what is going on in the area. And when you're warping off, try, if you possibly can, try to get this prop mod off, because you're going to warp a lot slower. Align to wherever you're warping, that way you warp off faster. And then use your hotkeys, and I will dock as soon as my drones get back. As soon as my drones are back in bay, as they are, and I'm docking. If you guys have any questions, just send me a mail in game, Brandon Durden. And I will click on my character sheet so you can see my name, Brandon Durden. You can send me an in-game mail, or you can just leave a comment in the video, and I will answer as soon as I can and to the best of my knowledge. Thanks for watching.